Welcome to LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education, a podcast that focuses on what is happening in education today, connecting everyone to the movers and shakers that are breaking boundaries in the education arena.
Welcome to LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education. Jerry, I was going to say it's been a little while since we had an AI episode, but that's not true. We just recently had one. We did go through a nice spurt without an AI episode, but we are needing it back because, what we need foundationally is AI literacy for adults, AI literacy for students. There are so many things to be careful of. Things are dangerous. We need to protect ourselves, our mental health. We need to protect our data privacy. So many things that we need to be on top of, yet at the same time, leverage AI. So I'm looking forward to digging in with our guest today.
Yes, today our guest is Jeffrey Riley. Well, tell us, how do you fit into this conversation with all of the things that Amy just said?
I had been in public schools for 32 years. I started as a special education teacher, and I did every job in between. I was an adjustment counselor, a assistant principal, a deputy superintendent, a superintendent, and then my last 6.5 years, I was the commissioner of education in Massachusetts. And I was getting ready to retire, and MIT called me. And they said, "Hey, we're launching a nonprofit out of MIT. We'd like you to lead it. It's on AI and education." And I think I caught them off guard because I said, "Can I say what I want?" And they said, "What do you?" They got a little nervous and they said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, 15 years ago, we didn't regulate social media and cell phone use. And it appears, based on recent evidence coming out, that it's really contributed to the negative mental health of our children. And AI, to Jamie's earlier point, has some real problems too. I honestly think this is going to kickstart the next revolution in education. But to do that, we have to make sure that kids and teachers know how to use this powerful technology both safely and productively.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There are just so many stories right now. And let's start with this. Let's start with the safety. So what is your advice? What do you do to help with teachers, right? Adults and students with AI literacy in terms of protecting their mental well-being and protecting their PII? What do you do there?
I'm going to start with an example, which I think is germane to this conversation. We recently turned out with Common Sense Media, which is kind of a national clearinghouse that works on keeping kids safe with technology. And we recently created a parent toolkit to help them navigate this new world called artificial intelligence with their kids. They have data that shows right now about 70% or more of high school kids are using an AI companion or its equivalent. Think of it as like an AI imaginary friend. But only 30% of parents know their kids are even involved in any kind of AI. So there's a real gulf between what the kids are doing and what the parents think they're doing. And as we said at the top of the show, voice clones, deep fakes, energy issues, data privacy, hallucinations, AI companions, where think of it as like an AI imaginary friend that the kids sometimes think is real, giving advice, which sometimes is not only problematic, but it's sometimes, in some cases deadly. We've had AI companions give kids advice to do self-injury to themselves, or even in some extreme cases, kill themselves. Yeah. So how do we make sure that our kids know what this technology is and what it's not? How to be skeptical users of the technology is kind of the bread and butter of what we do at Day of AI.
I love it.
Jeff, I want to bring up something that I think we need to make a distinction on. And I wonder how you think about this. We have a school in Kansas that is actually taking the Chromebooks out over Christmas break. So middle school kids can't use them anymore. And they're saying that the reason is screen time. I get that. But I also get that just this last year, if you want to talk about screen time, I wrote a book and I illustrated a book, all using an iPad. And my screen time shot up I was being creative. I was researching. I was critical thinking. And so to me, I think it's easy to say screen time when we really need to look at what kind of productivity time are they using on devices. I'm wondering if you make that distinction between those two things, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's an excellent point. I do think we need to figure out how to use this technology effectively.
Yes.
But more than that, I like to step back even a bit further and say this is really about balance. We
Balance.
know that kids are going to have to use technology to navigate. I don't believe that AI is going to replace people in the workplace, although there'll certainly be some sectors that will be impacted. But when I speak
Right.
about this publicly, what I say is I do believe that kids with AI skills are going to replace those people that don't have AI skills. And if that's the case, then all of our children need to be well versed in this technology. But
But
again, it's also about balance. I'll give you a
yeah.
different example. As my last year as commissioner, I put out a grant to restrict or ban cell phones in classes. And within the first 2 weeks of implementation, I must have had a half a dozen superintendents call me with virtually the same message. Jeff, they're talking to each other in the cafeteria again. Right? And that means we're out of balance, right? Like, how do we find that correct balance from, yes, using this technology to go further and faster than we ever could, but at the same time, figure out how to unplug and be human too.
Oh,
I
I
agree.
couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I've seen that with cell phones as well. Sometimes there's, because it's about balance. It really is, and even when you do remove it, off, the students appreciate that time to be able to connect, to be able to, be creative in other ways instead of being in this silo on their phone. They recognize that there is a level of addiction that makes them uncomfortable. And so having that opportunity to be with their friends and be with their teachers and engage in things in the classroom, they're seeing that. They're seeing that there are benefits to that.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I mean, you guys are significantly younger than I am, but my kids, my own personal children, they like to tease me. They say, tell us again when there was no internet and the phone was attached to the wall, right? And there's crazy
Yeah,
stuff like that. And it's
yeah,
true. Like for the first 20 plus years of my life, there was no internet. The internet
right,
for us was called the Encyclopedia Britannica, right, in our living room. And
Right.
In the Riley family, we were missing the S volume. So I have major knowledge gaps with any
uh-oh.
words that begin with S.
Oh, I
But
love
the
it.
truth but the truth is that's the way I grew up. And so I have a different experience than my own children have. And so my children, they grew up in Boston where I'm from. They went to the Boston public schools, but they can't write in cursive. Nobody told me that was going to happen. Okay, maybe they don't need it. My kids have, as I said, born here, raised here, lived here almost their whole lives, and they can't get anywhere in the city without Waze or another GPS type.
Right.
I can get everywhere in the city because in the days there was no Waze or a GPS, right? You needed to know street signs, you needed to know landmarks. So my kids don't have that spatial relationship skill that I have. And so we need to have these conversations about how to use the technology correctly because I think kids still need to have a knowledge base to draw from to be able to use this new technology in a way that's going to be beneficial to them. The worst case scenario is they just trust everything that they see on Gemini or
Right.
ChatGPT, and they're not skeptical about it, and they need to be.
That takes me back to what you said earlier. 70% of students in high school are using AI, and 30% of the parents don't know. And I think part of the problem is, and I would say I'm part of that problem too, we don't use our technology in a way that models good behavior.
Yeah.
I think about the dinner table. I was a superintendent and my children would say, Mom, put the phone down. But I was always worried. I was not modeling well. And I understand that. And I'm so happy you are putting out a book on that because when you said that, I thought, Gosh, if you just talk to your kids at the supper table, maybe you'd know they're using AI,
Yep.
but it's just a different world. And resources like you're putting out are so helpful to parents, and we hope it gets to all parents so that they can start guiding their students and children in a good direction.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
I really appreciate that.
I
We
like
need to
that.
have these conversations with our kids and our families and connect them to our schools in a way we
Right.
never had to necessarily before, right? I think now more
Exactly.
than ever, we need our
Yep.
families to be involved.
Yes. Yes. I totally agree with that. And part of the reason that I think parents don't know that students are using it is because sometimes students don't even realize they're using it because they're built into the tools that they've already been using. So
Right.
even when we Google something, right, where it automatically comes up with an AI synthesis, right? Or Snapchat, it has AI built into it. So AI is obviously it's here to stay. Our world is going to change in really wonderful ways because of it. We're going to innovate and create new things. But at the same time, as we mentioned, there are these dangers. We have to be aware that we're using it. We have to know how to use it properly. But what about the accountability of the AI companies as well? What is their part in this?
Well,
Well, it's such an important question. I think,
mm,
what we've learned when cell phones and social media were basically allowed to proliferate unfettered without regulation is I think we may have hurt our kids. I mean, that's what the research coming out seems to say, that it's hurt our kids' mental health. Some people dispute that. I get that. But AI, to your earlier point, has some issues too. And I think companies are seeing, because some companies have been sued over social media by attorneys generals across the states. And I think what I'm starting to see for the first time is companies that want to provide AI materials for students are thinking on the front end, and this is a good thing. They're trying to figure out how they can keep kids safe and prove to school leaders that this is a safe technology, that the data is not being stolen or stored or mined and used for nefarious purposes, right? A lot of times in the past, districts would take this free thing, not realizing that it was
Right.
tracking student data. And
Mm.
so I think they have ultimately a responsibility to keep our kids safe.
Right.
And I hope we do a better job than we did 15 years ago with the cell phones and social media. The reality is AI was created in this country. And in 2029, the PISA International Assessment will take place. That's us, compares us to other countries around the world. But in 2029, they're adding AI literacy as a discrete test. And it's
Oh,
going to be embarrassing if we're the country that started this technology and we're ranked number 29 in the world on AI literacy. And so we need to make sure our kids get this information so that they understand the pros and the cons, right? Because there is some questionable things out there. I saw recently there's a product being peddled to schools, an AI attention detection device. And what it is basically a camera that sits on the teacher's desk and tracks student eye movements to see if they're paying attention in class or not. Do we think this is a good idea or a bad idea? I showed this to some kids at Medfield High School, a local high school, and they were like, "This is Orwellian," which is a great reference for a high school kid. I was like,
yeah.
"Absolutely."
Way to
Right.
go. Yeah.
And so we need to start having these conversations to figure out what's fair and what's foul, and how do we teach kids to be skeptical of this stuff, right? Because I don't know
Yes.
about you, I don't know how often you guys use AI, but to your earlier point, it's here, it's
Yeah.
ubiquitous. Every
Yeah.
time you try to send a text, it tries to predict your next word. That's AI. Every
Yeah.
time you're on Netflix and it tries to curate for you movies it thinks you will like based on your previous viewing history, that's AI. We were out in Arizona about 6 months ago training all the state education commissioners on AI in the country, and we took a Waymo, a self-driving car.
I did
That
that too.
also is AI, right? And so
Yes.
it's everywhere. I use it on my phone for, I have chat on my phone, but I fight with chat. I probably use it, I don't know, 8 to 10 times a day. But on at least 2 of those occasions, I'm fighting with ChatGPT because I know it's giving me the wrong information.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Push back, right? We need to, right. Kids,
Right.
adult, we can't just accept what's given to us. And I almost feel like, when I talk with teachers, I kind of recommend and we actually had a guest on who talked about this too. He was in Spain. Make it a challenge for them to actually seek out misinformation, or even it's so easy to do with not, it's actually hard to do, but easy to implement for students to really be um, work hard to, you have to cut that out, Marvin, really work at trying to pick out deep fakes, right? Is it real or is it not? It's becoming almost impossible now. A year ago, it was kind of easy with photos and videos.
Sure.
It is not any
No.
longer. And so giving them that challenge, I think really sets in for them like, oh, wow, this is kind of scary. This can be kind of scary. And I mean, also challenge them to see how many reels in their feed are actually real or not. Because a lot of times, I mean, I'll get stuff sent from my family or I'll send stuff. Oh my gosh, look at that. Like, nope, AI. At some point, it's like, it doesn't even feel good anymore to see a funny video or something that's heartwarming if it's not even real. So,
Well, that's the healthy skepticism we want kids to have. And they can
yeah,
only have that if they A, have a knowledge base, and B, have experienced the fact that sometimes AI is either not telling the truth or it's biased or it has other issues. I give examples when I speak publicly. The strawberry problem. I don't know if you guys know about this one, but I won't put you on the spot and ask you how many R's are in strawberry. I'll tell you there's 3 R's in the word strawberry. But until about 9 months ago, if you asked one of the large language models how many R's are in strawberry, it would tell you 2 or 4. It was just wrong. It finally, they've corrected it, right? There's another funny example. How do I keep the cheese from sliding off my pizza? And the answer is, they came back was add 1/8 of a cup of glue. Well, I don't think that's good information. And I think where that came from, or it's believed where that came from, is, the large language model scraped Reddit and Twitter, and someone
Yeah.
said it either sarcastically on
As a
one of those
joke.
things.
Yeah.
The technology didn't know was sarcastic and just presented it as the honest information. And then my personal favorite is, where do cheeseburgers come from? And the answer given was cheeseburger trees. And then it doubles down and says, which are found in cheeseburger orchards. Now, listen, I know we don't have those in Boston, Jerry, but maybe in Kansas they have
No.
cheeseburger orchards. All right, because I'm coming wherever they have that. I want to be
Come on.
there.
That sounds good, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So, Jeff, what do you say to commissioners and school leaders when they're trying to make sure that the kids are AI literate, but the adults in the school are not AI literate? How do we get everybody there?
Well, I mean, I think, one of the things we do, really 3 things. We train teachers and administrators on all things AI. We help districts think about what policies could look like, and then we provide free AI curriculum K to 12 for students.
Oh, nice.
And it's the training of teachers that I think is what we do most, because you do have teachers who are a little bit afraid. We know that kids sometimes know more about the technology than we do, right? And on the other hand, we've all figured out how to use the internet. Like, you've got to bring them along and say, we'll figure this out too. And then just show them. When I speak and train teachers, what I show them is how this technology can make their lives easier by taking away so many administrative tasks. Whether you're a teacher and you need help grading papers, or I was a special education teacher, it can help you do a framework for an IEP, which would save me hours of time. Or you're a principal and you need to schedule your building. I'm so old, I used to hand schedule my buildings. AI can do that in a matter of seconds now at a very high rate, save schools, particularly with large high schools, tens of thousands of dollars if you use Timely or a program like that. So when you show them, like, this is going to give you your life back, here's a way you're struggling. You had a kid who was misbehaving in class today, and you're struggling with how to write this letter home to a parent. You could just ask Chat GPT, explain to them the issue. You want to make sure the parent understands this behavior was completely unacceptable, yet you don't want to offend the parent. Can you do a first draft of this for me? And within seconds, it comes up with a first draft. You could tweak it a little bit and then send it on. But I know teachers, they would have been wringing their hands for 3 or 4 hours trying to write this document because they wanted to be clear, but not offensive. Right. And so this is going to provide teachers more time and space to wait for it. And this is important. God forbid, give them back the time and space to focus on building engaging, exciting lessons, which is,
Yes.
I think is what teachers got into this for, right? They want to inspire students. And yet we've handcuffed them for so long with administrative minutia and overhead and burden that they just haven't been given the time and space to do that. So I think we're entering into what could be, if done well, a new era for education where people are excited about being in the classroom and excited to have the time to build and share great lessons so that kids are, in these joyful learning environments.
Yes. That's our hope. I hope that all comes to fruition for our educators because they sure deserve it
They
have
do.
more time back. So do our kids. Yes. So what advice do you give to just your normal teacher out there that wants to learn more?
So I have one of the slides I show is there's 3 tidal waves. And in the first slide, the guy's trying to hold back the tide. And in the second
Yes.
slide, he's buried his hand in the sand. And in the third slide, he's surfing the wave. And what I tell teachers is, it's time to go surfing, but guess what? You don't even have to go surfing. All you have to do is dip your toe in the water. And let's show you some ways that you can do that by just starting the process. And we show them, you can use our curriculum to be sure, but you also have built up great curriculums, teachers, over the years. Here's a simple way to infuse your great lesson with a little bit of AI and make it even better, right? One of the core things I'm most excited about artificial intelligence as a longtime educator is, for the first time, we're really going to be able to differentiate and personalize instruction in a way we couldn't do before. And it's going to be game changing for a lot of kids, but especially for kids with special needs, kids living in poverty that may have seen, 10,000 less words than their more affluent peers when they get to kindergarten. For kids learning English, it's just going to be able to allow teachers to do and to teach in a way that's much more personalized than they ever could before, right? Being a teacher is hard. You've got 30 kids of various abilities and you're trying to teach, it's hard to differentiate, but this technology is going to let us do that.
Yeah. Yes. We
So-
hope that is the case. Yes.
We hope so. And these are some things that we've been talking about for a little while, but it does seem that the dipping the toe in the water is still kind of slow going. Not as many teachers are surfing yet. So what are those? Do you know those percentages? And I guess slowly but surely we'll get people there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I would say is, we're a small but mighty shop, but we've been blown away by how many schools are reaching out to us to get support, and we want to help everybody, right? And I think part of that is because they recognize we're kind of a unique fusion of young MIT technologists and experienced, read that as old educators like myself. And so it's this fascinating fusion of people who know the tech and the people who know how to apply it in classrooms.
Right.
And because a lot of educators don't trust big tech anymore, we seem like a credible group that's going to tell them both the good and the bad and speak to them in a way that they understand, right? Being more than 3 decades in public schools, we speak our own language and I can speak to my people. So I think, if we get in front of people, I think we're going to be able to move the needle. We've been pretty successful right now. And, it's simple things. You don't have to be a technology teacher to do AI. We can show you how this can just improve your practice and your pedagogy in, a matter of minutes and give you concrete examples of lessons, right? That could make life easier.
Now, Jeff, is your curriculum free? And
It
how
is.
people get in contact with you?
If you go to dayofai, all one word, .org, all you have to do is type in your email address. I promise we won't surveil you or super spam you, but that will take you behind the curtain and you can access all of our free curriculum, all of our resources, including our parent toolkit that we built with Common Sense Media that a lot of schools are using for parent nights
Wow.
and things like that. We're not interested in making money. We're interested in supporting kids and teachers.
Wow, that is great.
So
Love that.
wonderful.
We will get that word out to people. That is very much needed.
Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. And we're really happy to, give this link out so that people can access everything that you are doing to move the needle on AI literacy for teachers and students.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
before we close,
Yeah.
I heard in the grapevine that you have something coming up this summer that you might want to tell us about.
Well, we're currently on our Day of AI USA tour. We're actually we're working, I think, with over 1,000 schools in the country right now, and we'll be visiting different states throughout
Fantastic.
the year. But it's
Amazing.
culminating this coming summer. We're having a big festival back at MIT, and we're going to be showcasing student leadership in AI. And so kids are going to do projects for how to use AI to make the world a better place, AI in the arts.
Perfect.
And my personal favorite is we're flying in 2 kids from each state to serve as student senators. And they're going to go to the Edward M. Kennedy Institute here in Boston, which is an exact replica of the U.S. Senate chamber. And they're going to debate and draft a national student AI policy,
Perfect.
which
Which
will be
great.
right, which will be done long before the adults have a national AI policy. So it's just this really idea that kids are very conversant with technology, and we should help them and let them lead along with us as we try to figure this out. So it's just, it's a real exciting time for us.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you for being on our podcast today. And you are breaking boundaries in education, helping everyone out. And we appreciate the work that you're doing for teachers, students, and parents.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Thank you for listening. And if you would like to stay linked up, be sure to follow us on Apple and Spotify and subscribe to us on YouTube.